Fearless Queens podcast for anyone looking to expand in abundance, success, and love every single day.
We are your hosts, Tina
and Sara,
two women on a mission to heal the world one person at a time.
Hey, Fearless Queens. Thanks so much for tuning in to yet another episode of the Fearless Queens podcast. This week, I am interviewing our first guest on the podcast. So we're giving Tina a little break here, and we have Jackie Clark, who is one of my very good friends. We've known each other since middle school, and God has a crazy way of getting people aligned back into your path when you need it the most. And here we are, Jackie. So thanks for coming on our show.
Thanks for asking me. I thought it was so funny when I was talking with you and Tina last week, and she just jaw dropped as soon as we were having a conversation of some of the things I was saying, and she was like, yeah, you're going on the podcast. Like, all right, girl, let's go.
Right. I mean, literally, it's just crazy how you came back. I mean, you popped into the boutique I'm working at right now, and I'm like, dude, I have not seen you in ages. How the heck are you? And then immediately you come to our launch party for this podcast. You're just so awesome, and you're spilling all your wisdom nuggets about where you've been the last 10 years and what you've gone through. So you wanted to share a little bit about yourself and your story?
Yeah, so I thought it was so funny, first and foremost, that when I walked into that building, I feel like there was a rush of emotions that just flew over me seeing you in that building, because I don't think we've seen each other in probably close to 10 years. And it's you go back to those moments in high school where you're nervous and you're like, I'm a different person now. But just going in there and your reaction to seeing me was so genuine and pure, and you were just so happy. And you gave me the biggest hug, and I was like, oh my gosh, there she is. That's just the Sara I've met and known since we were kids. And it was so refreshing, and I think it was definitely needed, and that was definitely the encouragement I had for even going to the launch party and putting myself in a room of people that I didn't expect to know, and then we just randomly all knew each other.
Right.
So random. But yeah, so, I mean, after high school, it's just, like I said, nobody gives you a handbook on how to be an adult, right?
Absolutely not.
You have to make your own decisions. You have to make your own mistakes. And if you don't have somebody in your life who's really guiding you to make those good decisions, or, who have made mistakes in the past and they're wanting to share those with you so that you're not making the same ones. I didn't really have a lot of that. I had, maybe one or two, but they were going through their own stuff at the time, right? And I got into a position at 18 where didn't really want to be at the house anymore, wasn't in a great situation mentally, and wanted to just leave. And, I got connected with a family that was really amazing and loved them to death, and they treated me wonderfully, and things just flowed really well. And they had kind of taught me a lot about what a family is supposed to look like.
When you say what a family's supposed to look like, what are you comparing it to? What does that mean?
So I basically, everybody grows up in their family, right? If you don't see anything other than what you're growing up in, and you don't really see, all of the love and all of the, boundaries and respect that families are supposed to have, or I guess, if you want to say supposed
quote, unquote,
to, right?
Yeah.
But I just think that it was they were so welcoming. They were so welcoming. They were so supportive. They didn't even know me. They barely knew me, and all they wanted to do was love me.
Wow. And you weren't used to that.
It was it's not that I wasn't used to it. Don't get me wrong, my family loves me, but some of the times it's just you guys don't really even know me. And it just gets to a point where you're these people just love me unconditionally. And they're willing to go out and do all these things for you, and they barely know you. They're just literally loving you and respecting you and your boundaries and teaching you things. And I think that's so important And I don't know if it was, me or if it was the way that, I was raised, but like I just didn't feel that coming from a lot of my family, which, things are a little bit different now, but it might have just been like teenage angst, I guess. But I got involved in this family, and, they obviously had their own problems too, but, for the most part, it was very welcoming, very loving. And unfortunately, things didn't work out the way everybody wants them to, right? Where you have a fairy tale wedding and you get married and you have kids and you live happily ever after. It doesn't work like that all the time. So with some of the underlying issues that I had, whether it be body image issues, confidence issues, I feel like confidence in my own personality, I ended up in a marriage that wasn't the healthiest, probably because I didn't have the healthiest marriage to look up to growing up.
I hear you. I mean, I always tell myself I had the best examples in life of what not to do. I mean, growing up, my parents did not show me what love was, what respect was in a marriage or in a household. Like, it was very angry there. And I myself almost said I do and walked down the aisle. So there's definitely some similarities there. But so how did you end up in a marriage that, and then realize like, whoa, this is not what I thought it was going to be or what I signed up for?
Yeah, so I had a plan for myself, right? Just like anybody else, I wanted to be engaged at 20 years old. I wanted to be married at 21. And then I wanted to start having kids at, 23, right? That's like the perfect plan in
Air
my
quotes
eyes.
everywhere here,
right,
guys.
Air quotes. That was my plan at 18, right? 18, 19 years old. I'm like, yeah, that's like ideal, right? No, wrong. It's not ideal because it didn't work for me. The person I chose didn't work for me. And that's just what I wasn't going down the right path. And I think a lot of it, to be honest with you, I had to take a lot of the blame because I think a lot of it was internal. There were things internally that I wasn't realizing I was doing. But basically, yeah, I turned 21. Well, I got engaged at 20. He basically went along my plan, right?
Wow.
So I got engaged at 20 years old. Shortly after that, we got a house. I think we closed on our house literally the day after my birthday. Okay. We ended up getting married in our backyard. It was a, cute little wedding, whatever. And then, fast forward to, I don't know, almost a year. It was different. We were living in a house by ourselves. I think a lot of the togetherness came from the fact that we lived with his parents and the love that they showed me and the situation we were in. But a lot of fighting, a lot of yelling, just not on the same page. Our communication skills were different. A lot of things were different, right? And all I could do was have flashbacks to my childhood of my parents screaming and yelling at each other, the alcohol, and I just saw myself going down a path I didn't want to go down. I took some time to kind of reflect on myself, and took some time to learn how to love my face for what it was, my body for what it was. And I did that just by not wearing makeup. Like, I would take my makeup off and I would cry. I hated my face. I hated the redness. I hated the freckles. I hated the blonde eyelashes. I hated all of it. So I took a lot of time to I didn't wear makeup, maybe some mascara every now and again, but I just wanted to learn how to love me for who I am and really kind of like take inventory of what I'm bringing to the table, what I want to bring to the table, and what is filling my cup up.
Yeah.
Like, what is giving me energy? What's exciting me?
Were you doing this while you were still married?
Yeah, so I was still married, and I actually, this is so funny. I always call it like my self-love journey, but like in that time where I was trying to learn how to love my face, I had scheduled a boudoir photo shoot with a girl that's local in Crown Point. She's wonderful, but I always like attribute my confidence to her Because if I didn't have her and do that photo shoot with her, I don't know if I would have seen me for how beautiful I am as a person. I mean, we took these photos, right? And you're like, everybody thinks they're scandalous, but really it just shows you like, wow, like that's who I am. Like, that's me?
Yeah.
Like, no way.
Such similarities right here, right now, because for me, I did one. I was engaged at the time, so I was like, oh yeah, like this is for me, but this is just a bonus for him, right? Mm-hmm. And that was the beginning of my self-love journey, and I had no idea. Looking back, I've connected the dots, realizing like, wow, that's like where I first started to get an empowerment within myself, because I didn't love myself either. Mm-hmm. And I was stripped away from everything and everybody I knew. 4 months to the date, I was like, I can't do this anymore. And everything was ready to go. Like, had the dress, the bridesmaids, the venue, all of it. And realizing, I don't know who the F I am. Mm-hmm. What am I doing? Similar to what you were saying, like, it was very similar to what I had grown up in. Everything that I didn't want, I ended up creating. And I just love that. I think this is a huge reason why we're connecting again, because our stories are semi-similar, but so different in the same way, to be able to reach people and younger girls of like, hey, you might have this dream fairy tale reality wedding or person that you want to spend the rest of your life with in your head, but until you know who you are and until you learn to love yourself, how are you possibly ever going to love anybody else?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I always love that piece of, like, I didn't realize it until I looked back and I connected the dots. And we just talked about this the other day of, like, you don't really realize what you don't want until you look back and saw what you've done and what you've experienced. And like I said the other day, like, you cannot connect the dots looking forward. Like, you can only connect them looking backwards.
Right.
And that's the only way. You can't see the future.
No, like, we live life forward, but we learn it backwards. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. And I think for sure, like, God, right? He's an amazing God, and we can go around the same mountain over and over and over until we learn the lesson. So we're never going to fail. But how many times do you want to take that test? Because just because you get rid of one person or one situation or scenario, if you don't heal from it or learn from it, then it's going to come back in just another person in another situation. And realizing that I was creating from what I had always known based on, my upbringing and just the situations I was putting myself in, because I didn't know who I was.
Because I thought it was normal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thought it was normal, which is definitely not. Like, love is not, it comes from within and then you can pour out into others. And I was always looking for the external, that it's like everybody else around. I was a people pleaser. I did everything for everybody else. And then when I was stripped away from everything that I knew and all that I had created, I was like, who the hell am I? I remember we talked about this at the launch party, like going to the grocery store when I became single and lived alone. I walked in there and I was like, holy crap, what do I buy? What do I get? I don't know what Sara likes to eat.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part, kind of following, like, my divorce, right? I had an apartment set up for when I left, and when I had my apartment, it was like, all right, I did all this stuff on my own, even though the entire time I was going through this process, everybody told me I was stupid and that I wasn't going to be able to live without a man in my life, and I wasn't going to be able to do this and support myself. And there were so many people who were unsupportive, but then the most important people were the most supportive, because they could see it in me that I wasn't where I needed to be. It was like it was a newfound light. Like, my grandma, my mama, she literally was in the car with me, and I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. And she was just like, yeah, go do it. Like, if that's what's going to make you happy, like, I've done it, like, there are so many people who have done it. Like, who cares? If that's what you need to do, to make your life happy and you happy, then that's what you have to do.
Right. 'Cause nothing external is going to make you, nobody else can make you happy. Only you can make you happy.
Yeah. And I think that, moving forward, it was like, okay, I don't know if I can do it, but I'm going to try like hell, and I'm not going to fail. Like, and there are going to be aspects along the way of where you are having little failures, but I think failure is literally the biggest like teaching lesson.
Amen.
Like, you learn from failure. If you're not failing at some point, like that's what you're learning from. You're not taking any risks at that point. Like, if you're not taking any risks to fail or to do something out of your comfort zone, like, you're not going to learn, you're not going to grow.
Right. And failure, you only truly fail if you stop trying. I mean, that's just quitting, like giving up, can't do this anymore, and I'm done even putting any effort into anything in my life. But clearly you did not do that. I don't even our past relationships, everything that we've gone through, like, quote unquote, they didn't work out. But that does not make it a failure. I mean, I wholeheartedly believe had you and I not gone through what we had in the past, we wouldn't be here doing this right now.
No, and I feel like everybody will look at it when you say, oh yeah, you know, this is what happened, and you tell a piece of your story. They're like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to ask. And I'm like, no, like, it's totally fine. Like, I don't regret any of the things that I did. Like, I met some really amazing people, and they really did pour into me. Like, I don't regret any of it. I mean, it kind of stinks, but like, I grew from it. Like, he's happy, he's doing his own thing, he met his person, he did all the things that he wants to do, right? I hope. But at the same time, like, I learned how to, one, live by myself. Like, I learned what it takes to pay your bills and, you know, all the things that you have to do on your own. I truly learned how to be an independent person and figure out who I am and what I want out of my life and what kind of rules do I need to have for myself to be happy and to be, I guess you would say, not a failure, right? I have rules when it comes to drinking. Like, I don't drink alone. I have a past with my parents, you know, they have alcohol problems.
Same, girlfriend.
So
Same.
it's like, okay, how do I combat that? You know, I have rules, and I just stick to them, and I feel like that keeps me on a really good path. I don't use alcohol as a coping mechanism. I can't do that. You know, I don't drink alone. Can't do that either.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, there's always a reason why you want to have a drink.
Yeah.
And I don't want to use those reasons.
And our culture is like, oh, having a bad day, have a drink. Oh my gosh, you got a promotion or you're having such a beautiful day. Like, let's celebrate. Let's go grab drinks. Or, oh, like, let's go have a conversation or a meeting and we'll grab a drink. And I did 75 hard over the summer, realizing how, and I've talked about this on a podcast beforehand, but that really opened my eyes to how much it is pushed on our society. And I grew up in an alcoholic family as well. So I just, honestly, like, anytime I take a drink, I'm a puker, so I'm always in the bathroom barfing, and I'm like, yeah, this is not fun for me, so I just choose not to partake anymore. And let me tell you, my bank account loves that for me, for sure.
I'm sure, yeah. I kind of always joke, I'm like, if that divorce didn't happen, I would not be the person I am today. Like, thank God, because I learned that like so much just about myself, like going out, being on my own, like you said, like you learn what you like, what you don't like, how you live, you know, how you like your house to be. You know, do you like your house to have candles in it? Do you like it to smell good? Do you like it to be clean all the time? Like, what works for you? And it's a key part of becoming an adult and becoming your own person, because you're not adapting somebody else's habits and you're not going based off of other people's wants. You're going off of what you want. And after I did that, you know, it was great, but I ended up, you know, having a really awesome opportunity to go work for, you know, an aerospace company out in Michigan, which I didn't even graduate, I didn't even go to college. Like, I graduated high school, and then, you know, everybody told me I wasn't going to be anything, and I couldn't do anything because I didn't go to college. And then here I am, like, making parts for NASA and airplanes and all these things, you know?
That's amazing. And I just wanted congratulations. And to anybody who's listening to this thinking that they're not worthy or think that they're less than because they didn't go to college, that's a crock of shit. Because had I known what affiliated marketing was or how to make money online, and that there are so much more opportunities than quote unquote college and this degree got me, nowadays it's just a bunch of debt. Okay? Like it, and that in itself, like my sister went to IU, and anytime I went down there, it's just a huge party scene. So we're just programming these young adults that are young kids going out into the world to learn how to cope with their stress and their relationships and hang out with their friends, all on booze. I mean...
Hey guys, Tina here. I am super excited to share something with you that has been incredibly beneficial to my day. It has helped with so many things for my mood, my energy, my sleep, my skin, my focus, all the things, and it's super clean, which is very, very important to me. If you want more information, I would love to share it with you. Send me a message on my Instagram. My handle is Tina M. Kafka, or there is a link in my bio. I'm super excited. I want to hear from you. I want to build a relationship and help you to create the best life that you want, meant for you. Bye, guys.
Yeah, I don't know where I would be if I did go to college, because I had so many people pressuring me, and even to this day, my grandma's like, "So you're gonna go to college now, right?" And I'm like,
Bless
hey.
her soul. She's just old ways of thinking.
I'm like, Grandma, I own my own business. Like,
Right.
Relax. I didn't need to go to college. I've literally made parts for like NASA and like military planes. Like, and you're still preaching to me that I have to go to college. I'm like, I need you to relax, lady.
You gotta love the old ones.
Yeah, but I think it was great though. Like, it was a great opportunity to go out and do that. But during that, like, I moved to a state. I didn't really know anybody. I moved in with my aunt. I moved in her basement. It was like my own little apartment. But at that point in time, like, I was still dealing with going through a divorce. Like, it might have been a year-ish afterwards, but at the same time, I was coping with everything while I was drinking.
Okay. And when you got divorced, how old were you?
22?
Okay. So met the guy at 20.
No, 18.
18.
Like, fresh out of high school.
Okay. Then got engaged at 20.
Yeah.
Moved in right after your birthday at 21.
Yep.
Divorced at 22.
Yep. We were married for about a year and a half.
And Jackie today is how old?
I will be 27 next month.
Well, happy early birthday. So
Thank you.
speaking to, the listeners, if your 18-year-old self, what would you tell her now, knowing what you know now?
Dear God. Learn how to love yourself early. Don't rely on other people to live your life. Don't wait on other people. But also figure out early what truly makes you happy. Don't do something that makes other people happy, because in the long run, you're going to be full of regret. Because I was doing a lot of things to make other people happy, and things I thought would make other people happy instead of making myself happy. And it just did not work out. It's not long lasting. If you're doing things that are truly making you happy, that's long lasting. And it's not, sometimes it's stressful, right? But you don't want to live in a world where you're just grumpy, like you hate your job, and you don't like your relationship. If you don't enjoy going home to your significant other, you're probably not happy. Like, you're probably not in a happy place. You're not healthy at that point. Like, that's not normal, you guys. Going home and being mad that your spouse is there, like, it's not normal.
No, not at all. Can you look back and see red flags before you said I do?
100%. On myself and on him. Like, we did not mesh. Our communication styles are very different. Our values were different. The things in life that were important, very different. Not saying that you can't have different outlooks on things, because it's nice when somebody has a different outlook and you can share that.
Absolutely.
Right? But if you can't share it in a healthy way, then it just doesn't work. I feel like I realized early on that I have a real goofy personality. Like, that's just who I am. I don't know if you can cuss on this, but I always tell myself I'm a goofy bitch.
Yeah, girl.
That's who I am. Like, and I'm okay with that. But I didn't know early on that I was able to show that to people. Like, in high school, yeah, that's who I was. It's goofy, whatever. But then going into something else, it was constantly, like, not pushed down, but it was like if I was being goofy or something, I was being, like, judged, or I was being yelled at for being annoying, or, I just didn't feel like I was able to be who I was. And the only time it was okay, in quotations, to be who I was is when we were drinking, right? Because that's the only time they would loosen up.
Yeah. And
when I moved to Michigan, I quit drinking, and I just would go out with my aunt, and we'd go to the casino or something, and they'd have live music, and I would just drink energy drinks and just, like, dance the night away. Like, I didn't care. That was my big thing. I'm like, I can't dance if I'm not drinking. Like, people are going to judge me for who I am. And I spent, I was like, oh, I can do this. Like, nobody cares. Like, and if they do, like, I don't. So
that's all that matters, right?
Right.
You're never going to see these people again. How empowering. I'm so freaking proud of you.
Yeah, I think a lot of that was like, oh, I was using alcohol as an excuse to be myself, to be goofy, and have courage. And that's not who I am, like, at all. Like, I'm the first one to call somebody out in a situation, or, like, I'm a very blunt person. I'm goofy and empathetic and all these other things, but I was pushing all of it to the side.
Do you feel like you were almost living in somebody else's shadow?
Yeah.
I hear you, because that's how I felt, and not knowing that until I started to do inner work and start healing the deep wounds of, like, who is Sara? Like, who am I? And why was I allowing everybody else to define me? And I think now that we're talking, like, together, realizing that a lot of it does stem from childhood trauma. I mean, growing up in a household where you don't see what a true, genuine, loving relationship is, you find it in other areas of your life that you, quote unquote, think are gonna make that happen for you. I mean, my whole young adult life, up until I turned 26, I was always with a guy. I mean, you were my friend at the time. Like, I always had the same boyfriend. And then right after I got done with one, I almost married the next one. And for me, realizing back now, daddy issues, hello, like, trying to find an escape from what was going on in my personal home.
I just knowing, who you were as a person and, like, kind of what you were going through, I think your biggest, like, connection was you didn't want to leave that person that made you feel safe, and you for sure did not want to leave that family because they were amazing. They were, like, the nicest people, and they took good care of you. Yeah. Like, and that was just not something that you had. Like, you didn't feel safe.
Yeah.
And that person made you feel safe, and
right.
That's huge.
Absolutely. And teenage Sara was such a hateful, angry bitch, because that's all I knew. That's how we communicated as a family. And so that poor boy stuck with me at my worst. And, I've apologized since then, like, because that's just not who I am anymore. But you don't know what you don't know until you know. And then once you know, what are you going to do about it?
Once you know, you can never unknow. And then you're like, oh, well, do I bring it up? Do I bring it up, or do I just, hope to God that one day they'll forgive me on their own? But I think always reaching out and, like, telling people, like, I'm so sorry. Like, it goes a long way.
Right.
And it shows that you're really healing. I feel like people have different ways of healing, right? You have to forgive people. You can't hang on to that. And since then, I've really asked myself a lot of questions, and therapy probably has a lot to do with that. But asking yourself, like, really digging deep into, like, you know you're not supposed to be doing that, so why are you doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Or like when you notice yourself being a little snippy, like why are you being snippy? Like what is causing that? And like really thinking about and like
Getting to the root rather
to the
than
root.
masking it with drugs, alcohol, sex, all those things.
well, either that or just like brushing it off, like I'm just being a bitch.
That's just who I am, quote
That's
unquote.
just yeah, I'm just being shitty because I want to.
Yeah.
Like no, there's a reason why. You'll figure it out. All you have to do is ask yourself a question, dig a little bit deeper. Don't just like pass over it like you're literally like, driving past somebody. Like you can't do that. You can't just have a thought of like, oh, I'm just being a bitch. Doesn't work.
Yeah, no.
You have to like really dig deep and figure that out, because I can guarantee if you don't like the way you're acting, nobody else does.
That's powerful, for sure.
Right.
There was something you shared at the launch party about what you learned, like a huge lesson that you learned in therapy, talking about online dating. Would you mind sharing that?
Yeah, that one's a good one. I can never let my dad listen to this podcast, you guys. He would literally be so upset with me. But it's fine. He doesn't know how to use
This
technology.
is for everybody's ears except Jackie's dad.
Yeah, because he would literally be so upset with me. But it's the truth. Like, I'm not saying anything that's not true. I have done a lot of self-exploring. Whether my parents want to grow or not, that's on them. That's not on me.
I hear you, dude.
And this is just where I've gone in my own development, right? So when I was in therapy, this was, when I started my career, which is I was building a business. And as I'm building this business, I'm getting like super overwhelmed because I have all this stuff I got to do, right? And for whatever reason, at the time, I wasn't with my significant other that I'm with now. But before this, it was just like, yeah, a lot of online dating and just the scroll or the swipe, and having that feeling of, oh, people want to get to know me. Like you have all these people in your inbox. And it wasn't that I craved the attention from men. Like, I mean, that could be part of it, I guess. But that wasn't the main root of it. It was just, I enjoyed the fact that there were people out there that wanted to get to know me. And whether the initial was like, oh, she's hot, I want to talk to her, or whatever the initial thought is, I didn't care. I just enjoyed the fact that somebody wanted to get to know me, because I feel like there are certain people in my life and in my family who have treated me as if, oh, you're so distant. I don't even know you. You're not even trying, first of all. So I'm craving the attention from other people. And this is, mind you, I have no idea I'm doing this. Like, this is all, I'm just doing it, and I'm not realizing why I'm doing the things I'm doing until my therapist is like, hey, why are you doing that? Like, you're not supposed to be doing this. Like, you have so much other stuff on your plate. You don't need to be worrying about online dating. So why are you doing it? And I really dug deep, and I'm like, it could be daddy issues. Like, it could be because my dad doesn't know who I am as a person. Like, he doesn't even know what to buy me for Christmas or my birthday. When I go over there and watch football with you, or like we go to sports events, and like I grew up watching all these movies with you, and food, like like my big thing is like food. Like, you could have literally given me a gift card to like a restaurant that I like I don't know. It was just so many like underlying issues of, I don't feel like my family knows who I am. I don't feel like they care to get to know me as a person, and what are my interests, and what makes me happy. What do I want to do? Like, they don't really have any interest in anything I'm doing. And I was just really fulfilling that I want people to want to know me by going on online dating and having a dispensary of just people who are like, hey, so tell me about yourself, because who doesn't like talking about themselves? I guess some people don't, but
then they're just lying, because everybody thinks that they are the end-all be-all, whether they know it or not. Like, you put everybody in a row, and everybody thinks the spotlight's on them, but in reality, everybody's looking. everybody thinks that everybody's looking at them, but everybody really is just looking at themselves.
Yeah, what do they say? You're the main character of your own movie and everybody else is just the extras. Well, like, I'm an extra in Sarah's movie. Like, Sarah's an extra in my movie. Like, we're not always the main character in everybody's lives. Like, that's just not how it is. We're the main character in our own, and we're all just trying our damn best. Like,
absolutely. Even like your family, my family, exes, all the things. Everybody really is doing the best they can with what they know how. And until they turn around and look within, because you cannot point the finger and put the blame game on everybody else and think that, well, they need to change, and if they would just do that, and if she and he and they would all do this, then I'm going to be happy, then my life would be better, then I would get the job, and then I would get the family, and blah, 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 blah. Well, it's like, whoa, the only person that I can truly and actually change and make happy is myself. And when you look in the mirror and don't know who you are, how terrifying. But now, like, doing the inner work and healing and realizing that I'm worthy of all the love that I had been giving out for so many years, I'm like, wow, I am happy and healthy and love Sara. Because at some point down the road, that was broken in childhood or in adolescence or whatever have you. But until you realize what you're doing, like you said, through therapy, for me, it was a mixture of therapy, yoga. I mean, my teacher training, like the woman who owns the studio I go to, she says always, if you can show up and breathe and do it here on your mat, you will show up and be able to breathe and do it in life. I mean, our breath is so powerful. Just taking a few steps back and just breathing through the shit that is happening, like giving yourself some space instead of reacting, rather than coming back into that situation and being able to respond. I love striking up a good conversation with someone about their clothing style. That's why Versed is so unique. Their clothing and lifestyle brand sparks up conversations that shed light to our community wherever you are by being the salt and light. Get 15% off with our coupon, capital Fearless Queens. Again, that is capital Fearless Queens. Head to the link in our show notes or on the socials to get your Versed apparel today.
yeah, I think one of the things that you had mentioned was like taking a step back and breathing. I think a lot of that has to do with like boundaries, because you cannot, like you said, place the blame on everybody else. Like, I could easily just be like, oh, I'm just like this because my parents or whatever. But if you don't decide to make a change, and if you don't decide to have boundaries and stick to your guns on your boundaries and what you're going to accept in your life, whether it's the way people talk to you or whether it's, you know, the way people are treating you, I think that's huge. Because yes, you can sit there and blame all these other people for all these other problems, but if you decide that you're not going to blame them and you're going to take responsibility for who you let in your life and the people that you surround yourself with, you learn so much more about yourself and who you want to be. And when you take out toxic people, which unfortunately I have to do quite often, when you take out toxic people and you're just like, I'm not tolerating anymore, you're going to hurt people's feelings. Like, it's the truth. You will hurt people's feelings. But are those people's feelings more important than yours? And you have to decide that. Like, I'm not going to apologize for putting myself and my feelings in the situations I'm in.
Those are healthy boundaries. I mean, you can't let somebody walk all over you. And I don't care if you've been friends for decades. I don't care if they're your family, your own mother. I mean, I didn't know what a boundary was until I read a book literally called Boundaries and realized that just because they are my family or just because I have been friends with them for 17, 20 years doesn't mean that they are coming into this next chapter in my life. Not everybody's meant for a lifetime. Some people are just meant for a season, but I truly wholeheartedly believe that what is meant for you will not pass you up. I mean, like we said at the beginning of this podcast, you and I have not talked in almost 10 years, and here we are. You are the first person who has committedly said yes and like came on the show. Thank you. It's just divine timing and divine orchestrated meetings that aligned us to be able to do this together today. And thank you.
Yeah, I was so happy that you asked me to be on this, but also at the same time, I think what I said earlier, like if you're not going to take risks, then you're not going to get anywhere, right? So yeah, I mean, not really taking a risk going into a shop, you know, but just being invited to something through, you know, everybody, I feel like everybody feels this way, or maybe it's just me, but when you get invited through something through Facebook, it's like, oh, like that person probably doesn't really care if I show up. They're probably just inviting me because there's like, you know, they have a lot of people on the list or, you know, whatever. They don't really care if I'm there or not. They are not going to miss me if I don't show up, right? But in the mindset that I was in, I had just gotten off the plane from Minnesota the day before, and I'm like so exhausted, had such a long day, and I'm like, I'm still going to this. Like, I wanted to go. I want to see where Sarah's at. I wanted to be a part of something that was bigger than myself, I guess, and just introduce myself to a new group of people.
Which ironically, you kind of already knew.
Which, yeah, randomly. I think Tina and one other person were the only ones I didn't know. And, you know, but it was so interesting because, like, for me, I'm like, I had all the reasons to say no. So many reasons to say no. And on the way over to the meeting or whatever it was, the launch, I was listening to one of your guys' podcasts, and it was like, I just randomly picked one, and on the way over there, was just really listening to what you and Tina were saying, and I feel like I resonated so much, and I was like, man, I'm so glad I'm going to this, because I feel like everything that they're saying is what I'm talking about, and some of the time I feel like it's falling on deaf ears. Like, people are just not getting it. Or they're older, and they're like, oh, you're just getting this? Or they're older, and they're like, yeah, like, pfft, you're the future? What the hell? And I'm like, okay, well, sorry, I'm full of love, okay? I don't...
No, and that's exactly it. Full of love. That is why Tina and I started this, because we want to create a happier and healthier world, and it only starts with one person, ourselves. Mm-hmm. So thank you for coming on our show and sharing your story and your vulnerability. I mean, opening your heart and soul and sharing with the people, the right ears will be able to hear and understand this, and hopefully not put their hand on a hot stove because they've heard what we've gone through and be like, oh shit, this kind of sounds like what I'm in or what I've almost did or the situation that my friend's going through or whatever, and you can just share this or understand that you're not alone. Because so many times I can remember in my life thinking that I'm the only one going through this. I'm the only one that can be feeling this way. Like, and then you meet somebody at a shop and hang out and realize, like, wow, we have gone through a lot of shit that's the same. Yeah. And the path that we're both on, I think, is the right one because it's full of love. Because you love you and I love me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to make sure I make this little plug here of like,
plug it in, girl.
My divorce is not the epitome of who I am, right? That was a small piece that helped me grow. But the fact that I had just a handful of people that were supporting me and just telling me, like, you can do it. Like, that's fine. It's okay. Like, I'm telling you guys, like, it's okay. It's okay to go. It's okay to go do something better for yourself. Like, and that was why I wanted to share that piece, is because there are so many people who don't think that it's okay. And it is. And they don't have a support system. They don't have somebody they can go talk to about these things, right? Because they feel like they'll be judged. Like, find somebody who is a judgment-free human being. Like, hell, message me on Facebook. I am a judgment-free human being. Like, stop in and just let me know. Like, hey, this is what I'm going through. Like,
yeah,
can you help?
Exactly. And anytime you're judging somebody else, you're really only judging yourself. You're pointing the finger, but there's always 3 fingers pointing back at you.
Yup, that's a classic.
Right. Oh my gosh, Jackie, thank you so much for your time today. If you are looking for more of Jackie, we will have her Instagram and Facebook. You're on all socials, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
We'll have them in the show notes. Is there anything that you want to tell these fearless queens before we head out for the day?
If you already are going on a self-love journey, or if you don't like the term self-love, just figure out a way, like Google it. I don't care if you Google it. Just learn how to love yourself, or find somebody that can show you how to love yourself. Like, don't look for that outside of things. Like, just look for what you want.
Yeah. What does Sam want? What does Katie want? What does Jackie want? What does Sara want? Because at the end of the day, you are the only person you can truly make happy. And then once you become happy, it flows through everything, everybody else that you do. And then the people that are supposed to be on your path will find you again.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that.
Oh, girlfriend, I love you.
Love you.
All right, guys, until next time.